here we go. Hey everybody, it's me, Stuart. Today we're going to be reading a story about Thomas and Friends called The Lost Puff. The Lost Puff. I wonder what this one's about. Alright, well let's find out. Here we go. One day, Sir Topham Hatt told the engines that there was some damaged track at Knapford Bend. All the engines on the railway listened carefully, except Paxton and Thomas, who were laughing at the antics of a duck that was waddling toward the sheds. "May I remind you two in particular not to be silly," Sir Topham Hatt said sternly. "You must pay attention. I don't want any accidents." A little while later, Paxton arrived at the broken track. As he rolled over it, it rattled his radiator, making him laugh. "That was fun," he said, grinning. When Thomas arrived at the bend, Paxton got him to try it too. "Woohoo!" Thomas said with a giggle as he bounced along. Sounds like it would tickle your belly. "Get some speed up and go over it really fast," Paxton suggested. So Thomas raced backwards around the corner and, oops, bashed right into Toby, who was filling up at the water tower. Water splashed all over, and all over Thomas. It put out his firebox. Uh-oh. "Oh no," Paxton cried. "Sir Topham Hatt told me not to be silly, but I was, and now there's been an accident." Paxton rode away quickly and quietly to deliver his trucks to the shunting yards. When Toby arrived at the shunting yards, Paxton heard him tell Stafford that Thomas had lost his puff. That sounded serious. Yeah, it does. Uh-oh. Paxton decided that he would go and look for Thomas's lost puff. He would find it. He raced along, looking all around, but he didn't really know what to look for. Then he saw a puff of steam and raced after it. But it turned out to be just Gordon, pulling the express. Next, Paxton spotted a fluffy white cloud in the sky. "That must be Thomas's missing puff," he said as he hurried toward it. Paxton followed the cloud all the way to Ulfstead Castle, where he met Stephen. "Hello, Paxton," Stephen said. "What are you doing here?" "Thomas has lost his puff, and I thought that might be it," Paxton told him, looking up at the cloud. "Up there? That's just a cloud," Stephen replied. Paxton felt rather silly. He sped away as fast as his wheels could carry him. Paxton realized he didn't know anything about a steam engine's puff because he was a diesel engine. But he knew someone who did know about steam engines, Victor, whose job it was to repair them. Paxton hurried to the steamworks to find Victor. He asked Victor if he had a spare puff for Thomas. This made Toby, who was at the steamworks for repairs, laugh. "Puff just means steam," Toby explained to Paxton. "When Thomas bumped into me, his firebox got wet. Steamies can't make puffs when their fire goes out." Once again, Paxton felt silly, but he cheered up again when he realized that Thomas would be fine, just as soon as his firebox dried out. As Paxton sped back to the water tower, he heard a cheerful peep, and there was Thomas, puffing around the corner. "Yeah, Thomas is all right." "You're okay," Paxton said happily. "Yes, I found my lost puff," Thomas joked. "At least I learned something today," Paxton said, smiling. "That puff just means steam?" asked Thomas. "Yes," Paxton said, still smiling. "But also that when Sir Topham Hatt tells me not to be silly, I shouldn't be silly." And Thomas wholeheartedly agreed. Yeah. The end. Wow, that was a fun story about Thomas and Friends. Thomas and Paxton were joking when Sir Topham Hatt was trying to warn them about the tracks. And when Thomas backed into Toby, Toby splashed Thomas's firebox. Paxton was worried that Thomas lost his puff, but it turns out that all he needed was his firebox to dry up and he was alright. They both learned a pretty valuable lesson. Make sure you're listening, and no joking around when you're not supposed to. Alright, well thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. See ya! Thanks for watching. See you next time.